Hi, I'm Rob from B&H, and in this video, we're taking a look at the Elektron Octatrack DPS-1. DPS stands for Dynamic Performance Sampler. That's right, kids, it's a hardware sampler. And as the name implies, the Octatrack also features a powerful pattern-based 8-track sequencer. This combination of sampling, sequencing, effects, and real-time pitch scaling and time-stretching features has led some to refer to the Octatrack as Ableton Live in a box. That's not quite accurate, but it does give you a reasonable starting point to think about what the unit is capable of. Let's check it out. The black steel chassis is 13.4 inches in length, 7 inches wide, and a little over 2 inches in height, and weighs about 5.5 pounds, so it's quite portable. In the center of the brushed steel faceplate is the small backlit LCD screen. At 128 by 64 pixels, the resolution of the screen may take a bit of getting used to, especially if you're used to working on computer DAWs. The small screen size does give the Octatrack more real estate for all the buttons and indenting rotary knobs you use to play, program, and tweak parameters during performance. The unit also features numerous 3-color LEDs that show you statuses at a glance, so it's obviously designed to offer a more hands-on, performance-oriented experience. On the back are 4 balanced audio outputs, a pair for the main outs and a pair for the cues. 2 stereo audio inputs are back here, as well as a headphone output and MIDI in, out, and through ports. Also back here is the power supply connection, USB port, and CF card slot. Elektron recommends cards with at least 133 times speed, and a 4 GB card with 2 GB of samples from Loop Masters is supplied. There's something else included with the Octatrack, and that is the manual. I point this out because you're going to be spending a lot of time with it. The Octatrack is feature-rich, and it takes a bit of work to really get your head around it. Once you do, its capabilities make it a really expressive instrument. And we actually waited a bit to see how the operating system would develop before doing a review, and sure enough, version 1.1 and 1.2 has some new features that are covered in the appendum. I also found Elektron's instructional videos on their website very helpful. We don't really have time to go into all the features of the Octatrack in this video, but I'm going to try and hit some of the highlights for you. And I'll show you how I put together the little sketch you heard at the beginning of this video. Conceptually, the Octatrack uses what Elektron calls machines to do the work. The 2 most important ones are the flex machine and the static machine. Basically, they allow you to play back and manipulate samples. The difference is that a flex machine works from the 80 megabyte internal RAM, while a static machine plays the samples directly from the CF card. There's not a lot of difference between them, but a flex machine gives you more flexibility, modulating sample start times and looping sample slices. Flex and static machines pull their samples from what's called an audio pool on the CF card, which you'll fill with samples. In my case, I took the route of plugging the USB cable into a MacBook Pro and importing samples I already had on a hard drive to the CF card, as well as using some of the supplied samples. You plug samples from the audio pool into slots on the machines, and then you're ready to put them into tracks. The Octatrack allows you 8 sample tracks and 8 MIDI tracks in its sequencer, meaning you can also use the sequencer to trigger external MIDI instruments. In this demo, I'll focus on sequencing some samples. I have the first 6 of the 8 tracks set to flex machines. Track 7 is a static machine, and track 8 is a master machine, which allows me to put effects across the entire output. In this case, a low-pass filter. I'll hit the mixer button and give you an idea of the individual parts. Tracks 1 and 2 are synth chords. Track 3 is a subby kick drum. Track 4 is a reverse snare. 5 is a drum loop. Track 6 is a synth hit. And track 7 is the bass sound. Now my tempo is 123 beats per minute, but I can speed it up or slow it down, and the Octatrack will do the time stretching in real time. You can also set the Octatrack up to play back more than one sample on a track, although if a previous sample is still playing when the new one is triggered, the new one cuts the old one off. On each track are numerous adjustable parameters that vary depending on the machine that track is using. So since track 1 is a flex machine, the parameters I can manipulate include the pitch of the sample, the starting point, the amount of re-triggers and the length between them, and a lot more, and I can tie those parameter adjustments to the internal sequencer using parameter locks or P-locks. So for example, in pattern 3, I have the P-lock on this trigger set to lower the playback rate of the sample, and the result is a change in pitch, and that blinking yellow LED indicates a P-lock is on that trigger. Each of the tracks will have 2 effects available when you're using them as flex machine. So for example, in track 1 here, there's a low pass filter on effect 1 and a delay on effect 2. Now in addition to the knobs and buttons, you'll notice this crossfader, and this allows you to crossfade between scenes for some cool on-the-fly effects. In this project, I have the crossfader fading between 2 scenes that simply have different settings for the low pass filter on the master track, track 8, to give me a filter effect. The demos that come with the Octatrack have more radical scene changes that give you an idea of the more radical sound changes that Octatrack is capable of when you lock additional P-locks to different scenes and crossfade between the 2. Now in this second demo project I created on track 8, I wanted to play this sample melodically and record it over 2 bars rather than 1. So the sample is in chromatic triggering mode, and the trigger buttons represent different notes on a piano keyboard, with yellow being the C key, while red LEDs indicate white keys, while the black keys have no LEDs lit up. By putting the Octatrack in live record mode, I can play in the part. In addition to chromatic triggering, OS 1.1 also brought us slot triggering, which is a convenient way to quickly swap out samples in a track, as well as slices triggering. The Octatrack features a powerful audio editor, and if you've used its slice mode to edit a sample into individual sections, this mode will allow you to play the individual slices on the buttons below, and of course, record that playing into the sequencer, making it a nice tool for remixing. 2 additional triggering modes were also added: a quick mute mode, which allows for quick mutes on the fly, similar to what you see in the mixer page, but this mode allows you to sync multiple mutes or unmutes by tying them to the release of the function key for better timing during performance. Also on board now is delay control trigger mode, and that makes it easier to create special delay effects during performance. To arrange the patterns into compositions, you'll use the Arranger page. Inside are various menus, but the Edit menu is where much of the action happens. Several rows are here where patterns for the sample and MIDI tracks can be ordered, repeated, and looped for various lengths. In addition, you can change between scenes here, transpose values for the MIDI tracks, mute tracks, and even program tempo changes. Now so far I've just been using the Octatrack to work with pre-existing samples, but it offers a number of ways to sample external sources as well as itself onto any of the 8 tracks at rates of 44.1 kHz at either 24 or 16-bit. Now considering that you'll sample into the 80 megabytes of internal flex memory, you might want to stick to 16-bit to conserve that memory. Incidentally, the 44.1 kHz speed also goes for playing back imported samples. If you try to play back 48 kHz samples, they'll play at the wrong speed. Newer versions of the OS allow you to reallocate the RAM, thus extending the sampling time beyond the original 16-second maximum. The Octatrack will calculate the BPM of your sample loop and automatically stretch it to match its master clock, although sometimes that calculation is incorrect, but if that happens, you can easily fix it. Now, one tip is to include the BPM when you name the sample, and the Octatrack is smart enough to use that number to calculate the sample's tempo. In addition to manual sampling, you can also use recorder triggers to automatically start the sampling process, so that's a convenient way to create perfect loops with minimal or no editing, and it's especially effective if you're sampling drum machines and sequenced parts synced to the Octatrack's clock via MIDI. Alternatively, the Octatrack can sample its own outputs, allowing you to create special effects which can be amazing for DJ use. In OS 1.2, Elektron introduced a brand new machine type, the pickup machine. Pickup machines are designed to extend the recorder functions and turn the Octatrack into a looper, making it much easier to record and create loop-based performances while syncing pre-existing samples to the tempo of the performance. Now, speaking of machines, I've talked about the flex, static, and pickup machines, but in addition to those sample playback and recording machines, the Octatrack also offers neighbor and through machines, which are designed to work with its powerful onboard effects. A neighbor machine allows you to route the output of the previous track to its input and add additional effects for more complex effect processing. A Thru Machine is similar, but instead of a neighboring track, it processes effects on the signal coming into the Octatrack's external inputs, allowing you to use the built-in effects on turntables, CD decks, musical instruments, just about anything really, making it excellent for DJs and live performers. You can actually set the Crossfader to crossfade between two external decks or two internal decks, just like a traditional mixer. And don't forget, you can sample the incoming decks to do all kinds of interesting effects. Another possibility is to set up the Octatrack as a complete DJ setup, eliminating the need for outside decks and a mixer, although this would take some practice and you'd have to spend some time preparing your music. If you're carting your Octatrack to gigs, I strongly recommend picking up the Elektron Carry M bag, which also includes the PL1 dust cover and a nice side pocket for cables and CF cards. Elektron also makes a rack ears kit for the Octatrack if you want to rack mount it. In terms of negatives with the Octatrack, there wasn't much. The 6-volt DC in with no battery takeover option made me a little concerned about losing power during a gig, and the feel of the trigger buttons wasn't that great and they aren't velocity sensitive. Now, having said that, I was really impressed with the Elektron Octatrack, and once I started to get the hang of it, I really enjoyed making tracks with it, and I was very impressed with its feature set. If you're a DJ, remixer, or musician looking to approach sampling in a more performance-based, hands-on, truly inspiring way, the Elektron Octatrack is definitely worth your consideration. I'm Rob from B&H, and thanks for watching.
For more information, please visit us online, give us a call, or stop by our New York City Superstore. You can also connect with us on the web.